Candle magic is such a fun topic. It's probably one that people know the most about, but do the least because they fear doing the wrong thing. So I am going to let the cameras all get situated and I'll go ahead and start. I am Jamie. This is my mom, Kat. She's a new witch. I've been doing this for 22 years and I decided after COVID to start a group to help new witches because the process is hard and there's a lot of information out there and you just don't know where to turn or who to ask questions to. So I wanted to start create an environment where everybody was safe to ask questions and learn from each other and hopefully get a nice network together. So that's the purpose of the group. But each week I try to come on with different topics to teach you guys about. All of these topics can be really small or expanded into hour-long sessions. I mean, there's books about each of these topics. So I try to give you enough useful information that you could go out and do something as soon as you get off the meeting. And then of course, I'm always available on the Meetup app. If you want to send me a text or ask me questions or have anything that you need clarified, I'm definitely available. So don't be afraid to reach out to me. So tonight is candle magic. And like I said, this is a fun.
Sanuti.
Oh, can you please mute yourself? I can mute you.
The food is up.
Okay. So just a little bit of history about candle magic in case you guys have never looked into it. Candles and candle magic is from about 5,000 years ago. The first recorded candles are from Egypt, made out of beeswax. But that was such a rare thing to have. They used to use a lot of human or animal fat to make candles. Things didn't go to waste. So that's why the adornments came. The dressing of candles became kind of important. A lot of the fat is called tallow. It's supposed to be white and tasteless and smellless. They wanted more to do with it. So they would add the oils, they would add flowers to it. So this is dating back a long time ago, giving significance to the burning of the candles. Another, just, what is that called? Like for trivia, birthday candles, as we all know in America and elsewhere around the world. Lighting candles on a birthday cake is definitely an old pagan tradition. The first altars for Artemis used to have moon-shaped cakes and they would light the candles on her birthday, which is May 24th. So random trivia knowledge for you. That's where candles got their start for birthday cakes. All right. I did not upload the picture, but I'm going to describe to you what the candle represents in spell work and on your altars or your representations. The candle wax itself is our bodies. The wick inside of the candle wax is our mind, and the flame represents our spirit or our soul. And so as you're using fire magic, candle magic, you're mostly doing spells or signifying transformation in some shape or form. The fact that fire is the highest element next to spirit because it's intangible until you mix two things, and it consumes stuff. So it doesn't exist alone ever. It's a combination between air magic and fire magic. That's what candle magic really is. So when you're looking at a candle, that's a good way to see the representation of it. Body, mind, and then the flame as your mind, as your spirit. So fire, the two combining elements for if you know elemental magic, but you're using fire and air, and fire represents that transformation. That's why most candles are about transformation or enlightenment. And the air part of it is about the intelligence. So when you're using candles, this is really about your mind. It's much less about the physical, about the earthly realm. It's going to be things that you want to change within yourself spiritually, mentally, in your environment, bringing new things into your life, because air is about new beginnings. And it's also about the way that you think, whether it's past or present, you know, how you think about your past versus how you think about your present situation. Probably the biggest thing to know with candles that I use is a candle opens a door. And for me, it is very non-ceremonious, but every time I do tarot readings, when I go down to do my spiritual work at my altar or my desk, just for my daily work, I have a candle, super not special. It's from Lunarly, if you know the service. I really like their candles. And I say one very simple thing, either in my head or out loud when I light it. And I just say, by lighting this candle, I connect myself to my team of light and I open up my crown chakra for communication. That gives my team of light the message, hey, she's ready to do her work. She's in her zone. And that's how I start my stuff. It's Not very ceremonious. It's not a ritual. It's just something that I do to know that everything's in line and I'm opening that door. So for me, the candle represents lighting it. You open the door. And it also smells really good. So a candle sets a mood. That's kind of the next thing. Like if you look at what candles are used for without magic, without intention, people buy candles or light them because they want to celebrate something, or they want to be romantic. They want to put a mood in place. They want to relax. They want to breathe in that transformative smell, or have the fire just be like the sound. I probably don't have the tone quite right with that, but a candle signifies putting or bringing light into darkness. So, still in history, we didn't have electricity. Lighting the way was always through a candle, through a flame and air. And when you use the candle to set your intention and mood, you're bringing in all of these past things that have been built upon for 5,000 years, or really, I guess since we use like sticks and set them on fire. I didn't do any researching on that, so don't quote me. I don't know. I don't know when fire was created by man for the first time. No idea. I do know though, all right, another small trivia. Did you know that we are the only species to cook our food, which is why they think that our brains have developed as fast as they have in the way that they have? It's what separates us from primates. So that fire ultimately also transformed us. So just all these little connections with how to think of fire and the transformation process. Okay. All right, here's something you probably have not heard before. Every single candle you own or buy or get can be made magical. Every single one, there's no exception. Because I've said this in the past, but your most powerful tool as a witch or a new person into spirituality is your mind. So whatever intention you set on your object, you are filling it with that intention. So you can get any candle at Home Goods, and you can turn it into your magical candle, set your intentions on it so that when you light it, you're focused and you know what you're doing. So with that, I brought a bunch of examples because once you know that any candle can be magical, your world like opens up and you're thinking, so I don't have to buy, I brought in these, you can buy these on Amazon, these tiny little spell candles, right? In all the colors so that you can do magical works on different things associated with colors. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You can go to the Dollar Tree and you can buy a pack of super small tea lights. And as long as you know what this candle is going to mean to you, maybe you add a couple stones into it, which, you can buy the super tiny little tumbled stones. This is just a rose quartz. You set that guy in there. You put a couple of rose petals. All right, hold on. All right, well, here's one of my dead roses that I dried. Peel off a rose petal leaf, just one, because listen, I tell you what, when they light up, you're going to think like your house is going to catch on fire. So be careful. Use very minimal. It's the intention that counts more than the stuff that's on it. But you sprinkle that on there and then you say, like, this is my self-love candle. When I light this candle, my intention is to love myself more. That's it. And you focus on that idea of what loving yourself more looks like. And you have just made this Dollar Tree candle into your magic candle to set on your altar, in your workspace, at your makeup desk, to think about that you love yourself, that you want to love yourself more. So that's one example of like any candle can be a magical candle. The next step that people usually go to, or the thing that you probably hear about the most that sounds the witchiest, is oils. All right, if you've ever tried to buy essential oils, they're not cheap. This is not something that, well, I don't know if they have them at Dollar Tree, but I've gotten ones from Walmart and online and through services, and the cost variance is huge. And you only need a tiny bit if you're going to put an oil on a candle for your purpose. Again, this is all about your creativity and what you're looking for and what you like. You're barely dabbing anything on there because the oil it'll keep the wax too soft and your candle won't burn right. So you don't want to we're not shaking it like salt and pepper at all. You're really just taking a small drop and you're painting it on there. And your adornment, your dressing of your candle is just the act of doing it. It's kind of like when you love somebody, child, parent, lover, and you're like, I really love you. That is me setting my intention on my mother, going, that I'm pushing my energy through to her with that. It's the same thing when you get a little bit of oil or you're sprinkling your herbs on a candle. You're just saying it to yourself, to that candle, to that intention. You're speaking it true into that thing. So I did not make a giant list of correlations. I hope that you guys don't want that because the list is extensive and complicated and you can get many, many books on the topic. My biggest advice to you would be go with what feels right. Do not look up a million pins on Pinterest. Do not try to go through every book in the library to find the perfect thing. It's mostly what's in your environment because this is the way witches used to work. I mean, there's a reason why I don't have an ash wand because I don't have ash trees that grow around me. I would have an oak wand because oak trees grow around me. So in your environment, what do you have around you? If somebody bought you flowers, that's a perfect thing to dry. You just hang them upside down in a dark place and let them dry. But you use that. That was brought to you with intention of love and making you feel better. You use that in your spell. You're going a step further to use that and set that intention of like healing and love and feeling good. So don't go out and try to buy a bunch of stuff or research the perfect thing. Find stuff in your environment that means something to you. Okay, with that said, colors always have representations. I mean, you can get down to like the hours of the day each have a color and a planetary representation. I don't know who wants to memorize all of that. I definitely don't. When in doubt, use white or black. That is it. Whatever you're drawn to. You want a black candle for today? Black can be associated with protection and clearing. White, purification, which is also like a clearing and protection. So those two colors can always make up for not knowing the right color for a candle if you're trying to do a specific spell. Like, it's hard for me to pretend like I don't know, but if I wanted to do a money spell, I think of all the things that are green around me, or thinking about the fact that money is green only in America, by the way. If you've seen money from other countries, it's really pretty. Australia has some beautiful money. I mean, pinks and purples and turquoises, and they got it down over there. But for us, it's your association. So I did write down like a task or a homework thing for you guys to do. And this is just to get to know yourself. So if you don't have a book of shadows or you haven't started anything like that, a journal page will do fine, or a note card, because this is going to start bringing forth the ideas for what you want. Write on a piece of paper the colors that you're most familiar with. You know, I think of Roy G. Biv, but then I was like, well, that doesn't include brown, black, and white, which are also important. And I love aqua and teals. So write down the colors that you like or that you have a connection to. Then next to that color, write down the things in your environment that you associate that color with. You know, my house is teal. So when I see teal, I think of home, the ocean. I'm a Pisces. Those all come into play for me. I have a close connection with them. If I was to look in a book and say, oh, I need a home spell or something, they're gonna suggest brown because brown is the color of hearth and home. Like, yeah, I'm not really attracted to brown. I don't want an ugly brown candle. I want a teal candle for my spell. So in doing that, I make it more my own. And that's what this is urging you guys to do. Come up with the things in your environment that you know that are associated with you. Another color I would never use is red, even though that's supposed to be like life force, blood, passion. Nope, I just don't like the color red. I would use a softer pink, or I would go with white. The color is only as important as you make it. But a lot of people are told that colors are one of the first things that you pick out with candles. So don't get swayed by that. White and black always work. And it's your intent. Remember that. It's always your intent. The same thing where it's oils. You've got stones and herbs that you'll see lovely, lovely depictions on Instagram and Pinterest where people have made these super beautiful candles. I mean, they've put glitter in them and all kinds of things. And my only concern when I look at that is I hope it doesn't catch on fire, because burning plastic in my house doesn't sound fun. So thinking about what you add to it and how much connection you have to that, it's just what you like. You do not have to add a specific stone. You do not have to add a specific oil or a dried herb to it. It's what you really like. So that's why I say this is like an artsy project, a witchy artsy project. Gather a bunch of stuff that you like, experiment with it. Because next I'm about to tell you how to put it on the candle, which is really fun. But grab the things that you might like and figure out how to adorn your candle with those things. I've gone as far as heating up a little, gosh, I think it was supposed to be like a necklace pendant. It was a tree of life. I cut the little loop off of it that hooks it to a necklace. I put it in hot water from a kettle. And then I tried to melt it onto the candle, which actually worked pretty well, but it fell off eventually, So as you make these things, they're not supposed to stick around forever. And anything that you use, try to get something that can be recycled, like with the stones and anything metal you put on it. Once your candle melts down, you could return it to the earth. That's our way of releasing spells back into nature. But with stones, who really wants to bury their stones? Like, you can reuse them, repurpose them. You just heat up as long as there's no metal, heat up the candle wax in the microwave and then pull out the stones and wipe them with a cloth. So you can reuse the stones that you put on your candles. I guess that would be my only suggestion for small candles. Oh, I already forgot about the stone on there. Small candles with metal, definitely think about these guys as a one-time use. Much harder to get things back out of them because they are metal. You'd have to put them in like hot water and let them sit, and it's a whole thing. But the ones like the spell candles, there's no metal attachment to the bottom of them. So they just work really well for if you want to return it to the earth. These are totally fine to go back. This little guy who does have the metal thing on it, this was like a box of 24, probably from Walmart. And I mostly use these as secondary lights. I don't normally adorn them. But like I said, any candle can be a spell candle. All right, so you've got stones, herbs, oils. One of the last things people put on their candles to give them meaning is sigils, or like a carving of some kind, a drawing, a letter, a name, whatever you want, something representing another part of that. For this, the only time that I did that was for a friend who was sick with COVID last year. And I tried to do a health candle for her. And, I had an A next to it. I didn't carve it onto the candle. I put it in the area where I did the spell and left it all there. So you can carve into them. With the skinnier candles, they're much harder. They break easily, and then you'll be mad. But with the thicker candles, you can do okay. And anything in glass. Actually, my mom, I asked her to get out some. So the ones in glass, like these little votives, are super easy because you can paint the outside of these and then it doesn't really matter, right? Like, so you're not burning paint or anything toxic. It stays on the outside of the glass. And you can get, with glass like this, if you do acrylic paint, you can literally take your fingernails and scratch that paint off and disperse it after the spell is done. So it's reusable. That's anything you can do to be reusable. Reduce, recycle, reuse, right? So I forgot to mention that as a type. So sigils, that was why, because the glass is so much easier to paint on. Like, say you have a health thing, like maybe you or somebody it's prolonged thing. So normally I let spells go about a month, maybe 2 months, and then I redo them. I return things to the earth and then I start the spell again, energize it. With that, you can let the candle burn all the way down. And then when the next month comes and you're ready to do that again, you add another green candle to it, or white or black or whatever, and then you let it burn down again. And you're using that same votive for it. So if you have things that are repetitious, protection is definitely one of them. I've done more protection spells than anything else. You can keep using that same votive. Okay, I think I hit on that pretty hard, yeah. The biggest thing is this should be fun. Don't become overly concerned with whether it's Instagram worthy or your stuff starts falling off in the middle of it. It's kind of like, let it happen, enjoy the process, and experiment with it. If you're not embarrassed by your first candle, you waited too long to do a candle. But you know what? You'll look back at it and go, damn, look at that. I did it and I got better. And look at the second and third one. So as you do them, you will get better. Unless you're trying to sell them, then definitely take your time and make them look very good. All right. Lastly, you guys, a lot of people think about the purposes for candle magic, and there's a ton, but there's 3 main kind that you really need to know that fall into a category for candle magic. So I'll name the 3 first. There's the Invocation Candles. This is going to be like my candle that I said I light it. It's the first candle lit in your spell work, on your altar, before you do anything else. You're opening that door and being like, I'm here. This is what's happening. I'm ready to work. Come and work with me. It's your igniting candle for starting your work, your spell, whatever. It is not your spell candle. The next kind it's called the candle of purpose, but that would be your spell candle. That is the one that is like, this would be the spell candle, because with purpose candles, you are letting them burn all the way out. So as you do your spell for it. If it's a spell, if it's one that you set an intention for and you meditate on it for a while, blow it out and you do it the next day, but it's something that should be able to burn all the way down and leave nothing for you in the end. The last one that people do a lot for, that people do a lot of, is the astral candles. So with this, you are communicating your intention with your candle to somebody who is not in your space. So the purpose candles we do for ourselves, astral candles we do for somebody else. And in that, the only difference is always signifying that this candle is not for you, but for blank, for that other person, whether it's healing, love, protection from them, whatever it is. You can mark it, you can put a scent on it, you could tie a piece of their old t-shirt to it, you would add something of theirs around it to make it their astral candle so that it's not you. Okay. With the purpose candle, I think I said it, but you want to let it burn to the end. And then sometimes candles leave a little bit of wax. That's special, just so you know. So if your candle burns all the way out and there's nothing left after it, your spell is kind of like, you don't need to remember this. We got this. It's ready to be taken care of. When there's a little bit of wax left after it, you collect that and you put it in. I didn't bring a satchel, Mom. A little, those gift bags that you get with jewelry and things, little tiny sheer bags. They can be cloth, whatever. But that's a little satchel. And what you do is you put that in the bag and you save that until your spell is completed or until you feel like you need to renew it. And the only thing that you have to do with that wax to cleanse it, the spell off of it, is give it back to the earth. That means find a nice place to bury it that it will not affect anybody or anything. But it should be like a very little amount of wax. It shouldn't be like a heaping amount. That is it. Now I want to offer you some ways to adorn, because this is the fun creative process. Like I said, putting a pendant in hot water and trying to get it to stick on there. Yep, done that. Today I had the craziest idea while I was writing my meeting notes. I thought about adding heat to a candle that would not melt it all the way. And so I actually put everything, I just did a love one because I think they're pretty. This is my little pink candle with, it just has like rose petals crushed on it and some sage from my garden. And then there's a few crystals of rose quartz added to the bottom. But I thought, all right, how can you do this and it be not messy and super easy and you don't really have to do too much thinking? And I decided to wrap it in a heating pad, okay? I don't know why this came to me, but let me tell you why this worked. The wrapping of this, when I put all the herbs inside of a little wax piece of paper, use wax paper, not foil, not tin foil. I wrapped it all in there and then I stuck it inside of this because this is round, this is round. It kept its shape. I was so proud of myself. I was like, oh my gosh, this idea worked. How weird and kooky, and I love it. So the crystals were harder. They didn't stay on when they were in there, but you take it out and the candle will still be a little bit soft, and just hold them on there until it cools. So being under a fan or something will help the candle cool pretty fast, but it all freaking stayed. I was so excited. I'm like, I've got to be the first to use a heating pad to adorn a candle. I don't know. So with making a candle like that, where you are really in the creative process and you're not creating the candle with your intention first. So I should clarify that. You can have your spell be the creation of the candle. You can go that route. You need to stay in focus. And that when you're in focus like that, it's very hard to be creative. The two really don't flow together. We're using two sides of our brains when we're being creative versus being focused. So do all the creating first and be messy and crazy. And, if you get hot glue places or whatever, you're fine. And then when you start your work with your candle and you light your invocation candle and you're like, now I'm setting my intention for you. Now you're being charged. And you can do under the moon charging. You can do next to moon water charging. You can charge it any way you like to charge your stuff. You can put it on a plate of selenite if you want to do that. But the making of it is supposed to be the really fun creative part, and just getting everything together and putting it out there and seeing what happens and learning. The candles aren't super expensive. If you do decide to buy the candles off Amazon that are colorful, they're fun. They're harder to work with because they're thin and little, but they're fun. And if you mess a couple up, you're like, well, that's only 20 cents or something. It's not that bad. So I went through all of my notes. I'd like to go ahead and open up the floor for questions, comments, hopefully no concerns. Anybody can speak.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's Beth.
Beth, okay. I'm trying to see. All right. Hi, Beth.
Hi. Thank you for that presentation. It was wonderful. So when you are actually doing your candle spell, are you supposed to sit with it till it burns all the way out?
No. Well, okay. Put it in an area safe where you know it will not catch anything else on fire. And I will say maybe I'm not the most patient. I don't want to sit there and then have my mind wander. Like I go ahead and let that burn out. But after I'm done putting my intention on that, I close out my invocation candle to let my team of light know, like, I'm separated from this. This is in your hands now. And I just let it go. And I come back later and I'm like, I'm always pleasantly surprised by what the wax looks like afterwards. So for me, it's kind of like, ooh, what gift did I get this time? So no, you don't have to sit there with it the whole time. Candles can last for an hour and a half to 2 hours. Tea lights, some tea lights can go for like 4 hours till they burn all the way down. I don't think that's healthy to sit there that long, but you're more than welcome to if you want to. But I would say no. I do the thing. I put all my energy into it that I can, 10 minutes probably, and then I walk away and the universe takes it. That's my thought. You do always with this, I'm going to tell you, do what feels right. If you need to sit there longer and really meditate on that purpose, that process, and go through your list and talk to it, you can do all those things. For me, this sounds really egotistical. I've been doing it long enough to where like I feel very comfortable knowing what I've put into it, and then I walk away because there's only so much I can give it, and then after that my energy is depleting. It's just going down. So staying doesn't really help. It probably hinders. So I know when to walk away. And that's all up to feelings. Like it's when you feel it. Kind of like when you're shuffling your tarot and you're getting ready to pull a card. Like when do you know to stop shuffling? It's like there's just something that happens and you're like, okay, done, boom, pull the card. It's just a feeling. I hope that answered your question. Okay, great.
Hi, Jamie. Hi, Kat.
Oh my gosh. Hi, Pearl.
Hi.
I saw you signed up.
I miss you guys. So, Jamie, I learned from the best, but I do have a question. So I had a candle like this. It was just like regular, one of these candles that I put in here. I dressed it up. I put my intentions. And then when I was done, I still had wax left over, but I didn't have the wick. Yeah. So I went ahead and took that wax and put it in here.
Yeah.
And okay. I keep it charged. And then like whenever I feel like I need to light it, like again, when I'm drawn to it, I just light it up. Does that sound okay? Like, is that a thing? Like,
that is 100% a thing because you made it a thing. That's your purpose, right? Waste not. If, like I say, anything you guys can do to reduce, reuse, and recycle, keep that going. There's no hard, fast law at all except do no harm. You're not doing any harm. You're doing helping.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I have a question back to Norma, Pearl. Are you using a tea light in that?
Yes, I use a tea light. I put the tea light inside of it and just let it burn. And it really doesn't melt too much, but like the aroma, and it just reminds me of the spell that I created. So, and I keep my selenite on it, on top of it, not when it's burning, but after it goes out, I'll put my selenite on it just to keep it charged.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So that brings me to my question. At the very end, you mentioned charging once you did all the creation and stuff like that. Yeah. I don't know what you meant by that. So can you explain?
Okay. This is where you give the candle life, whatever life you want to give it. You created it for a purpose and you want to tell it its purpose. I don't have a feather. I'm going to pretend like my very dried rose is a feather. But when you collect things from nature and you're not trying to change them, one of the ways that you can reinvigorate them with their original energy, because everything's brought in here, everything's made with an energy and it never goes away. It just shifts from one place to another, right? Bringing it back to its original energy, how I do it is I just hold it very close to my face, if not all the way touching, and I say, remember your purpose. And I do it in like a breath where I feel like I'm breathing life back into a thing, a feather. I haven't really done it with plants, but feathers for sure, because I love feathers. I'm a feather hoarder. I have millions of them. I make my husband stop the car and get out on the side of the road and pick them up if I see one. So the candle would work in the same way, where if you wanted to just give it that simple, like you know your purpose. Here's your purpose. You can tell it. You can sit there and meditate and push energy into it and think about what burning this candle, what changes you want to bring to your life. So that's charging it or bringing it into like what the purpose of it actually is. So where your invocation candle is really about connecting. This is the door opener to your magic. The purpose candle is the one that it's like, you are the thing that is doing the action in the universe and the energy that I'm putting out from that, because I've created you to now push that energy. You're an amplifier of change. So that's one of the things that you can imagine, is that there's these waves of energy coming off of this, and whatever change you're asking of this thing that you've created, it's pushing that wavelength out into the world to bring in the change or pull stuff away from you if that's what you're also trying to do.
Also, Kat, I like to put my, when I do my moon rituals outside and let everything sit out and charge under the moon, I also bring that candle out with the selenite, and then I just tell it its purpose. And I also thank it. And Jamie's who taught me that. So thank you, Jamie.
I have not said that in so long, to thank things or to give. I just say, like, feel gratitude, feel the feelings that you want from the spell. Like whatever feeling you're expecting this candle to change. Did I say that right? Whatever change you're expecting from the candle, like that feeling of getting that thing, try to experience that while it's burning. Try to experience that while you're setting the intention on it. What will it feel like when your spell is complete? What will your life look like? So doing all of that just helps push that energy that you're looking for into the object. And this could be for stone, specifically tonight's candles. It could be your herbs, a satchel, a poppet, just the different things that people make as magical items. Sorry, that was camera school, of course. What other questions do we have about candles? Or if the candle conversation is done and everybody feels satisfied, you guys can ask me questions about anything else to do with spirituality. And if you are okay with leaving the meeting and you've heard enough for tonight, you guys can also log off. I am not offended as people leave. We have our lives. So, yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
With the oil and doing the candle, I've read that you're supposed to go a certain way.
Okay.
But I've read obviously many different.
Yeah.
I've heard outside in or inside out, depending whether you're attracting or banishing something.
Yes.
Or from the middle up for attracting, or middle down for banishing. Would you say it doesn't really matter as long as the intention's there?
So I was going to ask you a question then, just to get us thinking outside of the, how we all have to research stuff to figure out what we're going to do in the first place. When we are confronted with conflicting information, if we didn't know that information before and we did it our own way, would we be wrong? No, we wouldn't be wrong because we didn't know. The more that you research stuff and you're being told by somebody or something that there's a specific way to do it, the more your brain goes, oh shit, I'm not going to do this right. I'm going to forget. Now I need to pull out 3 books and 5 resources to make sure I got it right. So it really, I always tell people, it is what you feel. Anything that messes with you having a feeling, every time you got to turn on your logical brain, that's why I'm not big into reciting super long spells, because you have to think too much. You can't be just honestly talking to the universe like it's your best friend and you need a favor. Yeah. When we get away from that, your magic becomes much more powerful, because we're in the mind of that thing instead of like, oh shit, what did that book say again? Oh, where's that board on Pinterest where I made sure I knew? And so we just get caught up. So whatever feels right to you. And I know I've mentioned before, like a general rule for undoing things versus creating. Mm-hmm. And this is like Druid stuff, right? If you read about the Druids in Stonehenge, but when they would need to undo something, they would walk counterclockwise around Stonehenge. And when they were creating something, building something, they would walk clockwise. And that was because of the sun. It was not because it was another text. They did it with the rising of the sun versus if the sun was moving backwards. It's almost like rewinding time, undoing this past thing. So that would be like vanishing and the removing side of it. And I like that because it has meaning for me. I'm like, oh, again, going back to basics, it's because of the sun that's why we think of it this way. I can't remember when people say stuff to be very specific. And when you were going like inward or outward, I could not picture that at all. So I was like inward and outward of the candle. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and then I'm like thinking, well, wouldn't that also depend on the candle? I mean, really, are you gonna, with a little tea light, go inward and out? I'm like,
Yeah, it's like I don't know what that looks like because I do use a lot of small candles. I'm like, oh man, so that'd be like a bloop bloop. I don't know. So
good point. One of the things to keep simple. Thank
yeah.
you.
With my oils, honestly, the only time I've done an oil is definitely with love stuff, and I just draw a heart with the oil, like because it makes sense to me. I don't know.
Right.
I don't do anything removing or building. It's just like I do a heart symbol, and I feel satisfied. So.
Right.
All right. Thanks for that question. That was good. Well, if there are no other questions, you guys, I will let everybody return to their lives. Feed your children, your cats, your dogs, your horses, your frogs, your pygmy snakes. I can't think of any other.
Me.
Your alligator. if you're-
Guys,
Bye, Pearl. So good to
Bye-bye.
see you.
love you. See you next time.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night.